Hello and welcome back to Vision Economics Academy, your one-stop channel for all your economic solution in a very easy way. Today we will be concluding the theoretical part of chapter number 4 of macroeconomics, that is measurements of national income. This portion is indeed very important from our board exam point of view. There are topics like nominal GDP, real GDP, GDP deflator, GDP and welfare, externalities and green GNP, which are indeed important chapters from our board's perspective. So without further ado, let us first see what nominal GDP or GDP at current price is. It's called GDP at current price because the GDP that is estimated is estimated on the basis of the price of the same year. Suppose, for an example, if we are calculating or estimating GDP of 2024-25, we'll be taking the price level of this particular year only. Now, what is real GDP or GDP at constant prices? Why it's called constant prices? Because GDP here is calculated or estimated on the basis of the price of the base year. Now, if you talk about India, the base year for calculating India's GDP at constant prices is 2011 and 12. It's still being carried out, and the new series is expected to be released in February 2026. Now, which one is better? Is it the nominal GDP or the real? By any means, real GDP is considered to be better. Okay, because real GDP helps in determining the effect of increased production of goods and services, as it is affected only by the physical change in the output or physical output changes in the physical output, right? On the other hand, nominal GDP can increase even without there is any increase in the physical output, as it is affected by price. It is affected by price, so it may not be so that even if the GDP increases, there is no growth in the economy. There might not be any growth in the economy. If the nominal GDP is estimated, and through it, if we want to, you know, uh, make a comparison or try to understand about the economy, it will not reflect the true picture. Okay, so nominal GDP is affected by price, real GDP is affected by only the change in the physical output. All right, so real GDP is a better measure to make periodic comparison in the physical outputs of goods and services over different years. So real GDP facilitates international comparison of economic performance across the countries. So it is the real GDP that shows the or that truly reflects the growth of an economy. Okay, so real GDP is the better measurement of the both. Okay, now how do we determine nominal and real GDP? First of all, real GDP is nominal GDP by price index into 100. All right, or nominal GDP can also be written as, if the price index goes here, real GDP into price index, okay, by 100, that is equals to nominal GDP. All right, so let's understand this with the help of an example. The estimate the value of nominal GDP. Now we are having to estimate the value of nominal GDP from a hypothetical economy wherein the real GDP is rupees 500 crores. Price index is 125. All right. So real GDP equals to nominal GDP by price index into 100. So the nominal GDP, the real GDP is given here as 500. We don't know what is the value of nominal GDP. The price index is 125 into 100. All right, which will give us 500 into 125 by 100 is equals to nominal GDP. Finally, nominal GDP is rupees 625 crores. Okay, now the nominal GDP is 625 crores and the real GDP is 500 crores. All right, but if the inflation is nullified, if we consider that there is no change in the price, right, as the price index is 125, that means 25% increase in the price level has happened. So the present year, the current year, 625 crores or the nominal GDP is equal to the constant price of or the real GDP, that is 500 crores. So let me give you a simple analogy to understand this. Imagine you own a cupcake shop, right? And in year one, you have sold 100 cupcakes at 10 rupees each. So your nominal GDP will be 1000. In year two, you sell the same 100 cupcakes. That means the production or the output has been the same. But now the price has increased, right? So the nominal GDP will be 1500. Okay. Now, would that mean there is a growth? No, there is no growth, right? So what is the difference? Nominal GDP calculates the value of goods and services at current year prices. So in year two, it says GDP is 1500. But wait, you sold the same number of cupcakes, only the prices have went up. So the real GDP shows the value using base year prices. It removes the effect of inflation. Real GDP in year 2 is 1000. Okay, so real GDP stays the same as the output is also the same, and real GDP is not affected by the prices. Okay, uh, so if you see here in the table, nominal GDP includes inflation, yes, and it's a mixture of current price and output both, whereas real GDP does not include inflation and it only shows actual growth in the production. Now if we have to give real life example, you know, uh, nominal GDP can go up just because of inflation, right? Whereas the real GDP tells us if the economy is truly growing in terms of actual output or not. So nominal GDP is like, checking a salary increase without accounting for rising prices. But real GDP checks how much more you can actually buy, right? So the nominal GDP would be salary increase without the change in price, without considering increase in price level. A real GDP is calculated when you actually notice, right, how much more you can actually buy, right? So that's a simple analogy for you to understand nominal GDP and real GDP. Now, what is GDP deflator? GDP deflator is a price index. The formula for it is nominal GDP by real GDP into 100. Example, if nominal GDP is 15,000 crores and real GDP is 12,000 crores, then GDP deflator would be nominal is 15,000 crores by real is 12,000 crores into 100, that will be 125. So there is 25% increase in the price level, right? Now we can also convert normal GDP into real GDP with the help of GDP deflator. So can we write like this: real GDP equals to nominal GDP by GDP deflator, okay, into 100. Now we know nominal GDP is 15,000, GDP deflator is 125 into 100, right? So by calculating this, you'll get 12,000 rupees, 12,000 crores. So that would be real GDP. So we also saw as to how we can convert the nominal GDP into real GDP with the help of GDP deflator, right? Now GDP and welfare. So when we talk about a country's progress, gross domestic product or GDP is one of the most commonly used indicators. But does that mean higher GDP means more welfare? It's a big question mark, right? So the answer is not necessarily that if the GDP is more, then the welfare is also more. India is also one of the largest economy in the world, recently surpassed Japan, but we can see the per capita income, the difference in the per capita income. India is still a lower middle income country, right? So first of all, the first limitations of GDP not being able to indicate the welfare is distribution of GDP. Now distribution of GDP, why? Because if the GDP is high, but the distribution of the income, the distribution of the national income is only concentrated to the few, that is the rich, and there is a wide gap between rich and the poor, that means there is no welfare, right? Then another limitation would be changes in prices. So many a times the GDP has changed only because of the change in the price, but the real output might not have changed. So that is also another limitations of GDP not being able to um, actually show the welfare, right? Then the third one is non-monetary exchanges, which means all those services of a housewife or anything like that, you know, uh, it adds a great value, but it's not counted in GDP. So that's one of the flaws of GDP, that all these important services do not, which actually put great value, add great value to the society, but it's not counted. There is simply no means to count that monetarily in estimating the GDP, right? Then the fourth comes the externalities. Externalities can be is ill. Okay, externalities can be both positive as well as negative, right? Okay, so negative externalities can be pollution. So the industries might increase And because of the increase in industry, the GDP might increase, but as a result, it is leading to a lot of pollution and it is causing harm to the health of the people. That means it's a negative externality. Whereas an example of a positive externality is, let's say there is a park where people go, they do exercise, they run, right? Nobody is, barred from entering the park. So it kind of add value, and the health and happiness that this park increases, it's not accountable in GDP. So there is also one limitation of it, right? Then we can talk about rate of population. Again, we can give the example of India, right? Rate of population growth. So if the rate of population growth is more than the growth rate, okay, of GDP, then we cannot say that there is welfare, right? If the growth in the population is much more than the growth in the GDP, then obviously, for example, a country is having GDP growth of 3% and has having population growth of 5%. That is by no means there is welfare, right? Now, the sixth one is the composition of GDP. Now, the GDP has increased only because of the, uh, you know, mm, production of weapons or luxury cars, etc., which is only confined to the few people, and weapons, building of weapons and all would not lead to any um, production, or for that matter, um, increase in the welfare of the people, right? So what is the composition of GDP? If the GDP has increased because of the luxury cars or because of the weapons, etc., then it does not lead to welfare. Whereas if the GDP has increased because of the increase in the production of essential goods, mass consumption goods, etc., then we can say that there is increase in the welfare, right? So while GDP is a useful tool for measuring economic activity, it has limitations, right? When it comes to accessing the true well-being of a population. So to get a clear picture of welfare, we must look beyond GDP. We have to consider factors like income distribution, yes, externalities, right, quality of life. So that is the reason why UNDP has come up with Human Development Index, which measures a country's development not just in terms of money, not just in terms of income, but other various factors, essential factors, or the basic needs of the people also. So some economists and policy planners have also suggested the concept of green GNP. Okay. Now, it measures national income or output adjusted for the depletion of natural resources and degradation of environment. That means what is the proportion of increase in or the development of an economy or the growth. Okay. So in order to get this growth, how much of natural resources was depleted? Okay. So what this concept these days are used by some of the economists, and it can lead to sustainable use of resources, right? So we have covered almost everything that is there from the theoretical aspect of the chapter 4, and as we all know, the measurements of national income income method, value added method, the answer practicals of it is already there. Now in the next episode we will be practicing the expenditure, we will be solving rather the expenditure method, right? And the answer practicals from expenditure method. So till then, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon if you want notifications. So this is me, Shivanga Chetri, and the Vision Economics Academy is signing off. Namaskar.